We are recording to the cloud. And this is kind of like the last day of class, virtual class. Have high fives and cake and pudding and all those other goodies that we would like to have. But we can't have a toast because we have lots to celebrate. And if you're all with me here, we could have a toast with Freak Show wine, which I've got out of the fridge there. Oh, you've got a good beer there, Carrie. Okay, great, because I have a glass of wine I could have with you. Here's toast to you, Carrie. Okay, we'll have more. Oh, Tina. Oh, we're already starting. Okay. This is going to be a fun class because people are starting already, haven't even said anything yet. People are kind of tired of the end of semester topic is here. Hey, Zhang is here. So now we have 6 out of 9 of the students in our 795. So this is week 15, 795. This is the end. This is the end. I've been listening to a song called This Is the End when I go running every day. It's by The Doors. It's like the end of everything from Apocalypse Now, the movie. If you've seen Apocalypse Now, it's kind of a dry, avant-garde kind of song. It's just like, it's not exactly the best song to go running by. So I just came out of a dissertation defense and that person passed. It's just like, 250 pages to read or something like that, a small one, about 255. And I gave her a quote from today's calendar. It's a Shakespearean quote. I wish you all the joy that you can wish. That's the Shakespeare out of The Merchant of Venice. I wish you all the joy that you can wish. And that's what I wish to all of you in going on and from this particular class. But we have a couple celebrations today before the first person presents in here. So we should do this. I can have my little flashy lights. I will say to Carrie, who passed dossier 3, we should have a toast to Carrie and give her a big applause. So to Carrie.
Thank you. Oh.
Speech. How difficult was dossier 3?
I wish it could be more difficult than this, but it's actually not very difficult. One thing to make sure is you get your research idea on dissertation prepared and be open for any comments and suggestions. And that's it.
That sounds like a good wisdom. And how long before you defend the dissertation, do you think?
That's a very hard question.
The proposal.
2003. I think probably the end of July or early August.
So this summer. Okay, yes. That's what we want to hear, this summer. So that's the first celebration. And if no one else has passed dossier 3 yet, we can just wish good intentions to all the rest of you who are going to have dossier 3 in a little bit. Jake, have you done dossier 3 yet?
I have not.
It's coming up then, right. So I wish you well and Hejong well and anyone else is doing Tawfiq as well. But we have to celebrate one more thing, and that is Barbara has gotten promoted to a clinical associate professor at IU South Bend, and that's a big deal. So I've got 4 little, whatever these are called, to wave to you and congratulate you, and we can have a second toast. So let's have that. Cheers to Barbara. And a speech, Barbara, a speech. Well, you got promoted, you've got a pay raise, you should be buying the pizza for all of us, but
that's a long thing, because that's 5 years of your career to put together for excellence in teaching and then service as well. So yeah, that was crazy.
That was crazy.
You guys put dossiers together.
So a big round of applause for Barbara on promotion. So we've got, dossier 3, we got a promotion. What else do we have in the group? Well, we have at least one more thing. I brought Rachel in tonight because Rachel was in this class last semester and deferred her quals till this semester, and she just passed her quals. So to Rachel, I've got 6 of these things. Big congrats, and some more cheers to Rachel, who's my advisee. So cheers to you, Rachel. So that's a really good news. Now we've got more good news, and that is that Tina and now Rachel, Barbara, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else here, have passed their quals this semester with no revisions. We were 4 for 4 in this class. Not only we were 4 for 4 in this class, the fall semester, including Rachel, was 7 for 7. So we've had 11 students in R795 in the fall and the spring. All of them passed day 1, day 2 with no revisions. That's never happened before. So that calls for a big sip of whatever you've got, water, juice, or whatever, to everyone who passed quals. So did I miss anything? Therese, do you have a new job to announce or anything? Jennifer,
Not yet.
Okay, you're okay. Jennifer, do you have anything to announce?
Yeah, I'm getting my award tomorrow. I'm at a conference right now.
So tell us about your award that you're getting.
So it's a Distinguished Dissertation Award. I won that. It was announced in December, but I'm finally physically receiving the award tomorrow. Oh no, day after tomorrow on Thursday. So excited about that.
Big round of applause for you. Big round of applause. That's not easy. And you're well deserving. I know because I wrote the nomination letter, or one of them, or anyways. Sunmei has an announcement to make. She's got her dissertation done and going to defend on what day, Sunmei?
June 14th. Yeah.
Congratulations to Sunmei. And that calls for another toast. But Sunmei has a second announcement to make. Where is your daughter accepted into college and what's she going to study?
Neurosystem and business and data science. Yeah.
So congratulations to your daughter, and her name is what?
Eunchae Hong.
And she's going to Boston and then traveling the world for this, right? 1 year in different cities?
Yeah. Auckland and London and Boston. Yeah.
So cheers to your daughter. This big time.
Thank you.
She's 18, I assume.
Yeah, 18.
Any more announcements? Anything else happening that I missed out on? So we have to congratulate my former my former student, Min Young Do. She and I got the Outstanding International Research Collaboration Award at AERA last week or a week and a half ago. I promised her 1 article published together. We got 14 since the pandemic. So in 12 are SSCI journals. So she's really hardworking. She's just, and she got a tenure track job 16 years after graduating. 16 years, okay? So if you think it's tough going through 1 year of rejection letters, imagine, but she planned it out. She wanted to work at Samsung for a decade first. And worked at James Madison for 2 years, actually, first as a visiting professor. So she had it sort of planned out. And the second thing is my former advisee, Meina Ju, is getting the Rising Star Award at the U.S. Distance Learning Association conference in July. And that's called USDLA. And I will be getting the Outstanding Research in Higher Ed at the same conference. So a couple other things to cheer about, my advisees, and I got a little lucky myself. So a lot of things are happening. And so it's been a really good luck streak for the class, for myself, for my advisees. And so I just, again, the whole year has been great. Rachel knows the fall semester students were just fab. In fact, the fall semester students got me this coffee cup or mug that I broke about 1 week in. And Tino's gonna maybe fix that, but
I tried.
Okay, I tried to.
Well,
it still works.
yeah.
It still works, but So Ben and Kim and Megan and Shannon were in the fall semester. And that was a great class. It's been great this spring to have all of you with me. It's been fun and great to see the progress. No one has disappointed anyone because you've all passed. You've all got your quals done. You all got your dissertations going, your proposals going. So everyone's doing a great job. But let's try and hear what people are up to tonight. Let's do them one by one. And so maybe Barbara was here first. Barbara, can we start with you? And because I know you have to leave first. I think you're the first one who you have a commitment tonight, right, Barbara?
Well, as per usual, things got changed around, so I'm okay for tonight.
Okay. Well, it's good to hear. That's good to hear. So a celebration. Barbara, though, go ahead and tell us what you're doing there at South Bend, what you're planning to do.
So I did make slides because I'm one of those weird nerdy people. So if you care, I can show you those or.
Yeah. And so,
okay.
What we'll do is about 5-6 minutes each person. And when you get to 5 or 6 minutes, you can go longer. You can go 10 minutes. I'll just let you know in 5 minutes or 6 minutes are up and, and then we'll do Q&A and give advice. So yeah, just give us the overview. Yeah.
Okay. So this was just kind of I finally feel like I'm starting to get my, thoughts together. So I feel like I was finally getting things worked out. So what I'm really interested in is active learning techniques, especially in the medical laboratory science profession, because I do come from a profession that is very much hands-on and active, but we also don't publish a whole hell of a lot because we just don't do that as a profession. So I want to look and see what we can do. So this is what I came up with so far. And just for a background, if you guys are not familiar with it, the medical laboratory scientists are people who perform diagnostic testing and interpretation for the doctors and nurses and everybody to know what's going on with their patients. They have to be accredited through NACLS accredited programs, which is the National Accrediting Agency for Clinical Laboratory Science. So we have standards of knowledge and skills that they have to be able to walk out the door with, essentially, which includes a lot of biology and chemistry and laboratory science backgrounds. So once they're done, individuals take the Board of Certification exam through the American Society for Clinical Pathology, which is very similar to like how nursing takes their NCLEX exams when they're done. So we actually have a goal and they need to get that, and they need to get to that competency level. And there's a lot of different things that they can do for employment when they're done beyond just working in hospital and reference laboratories. They can go into research and a lot of other things. But my problem is that there's just not enough of us. There never is. The 2020 vacancy survey showed some decent vacancy rates, as you can see, from either all departments or especially those in the supervisory roles, and expected 5-year retirement rates to be pretty high.
Well, then you should be doing a dissertation on replication of yourself, like creating a second you and the third you.
Yeah, I've had that asked before. And then we know that the COVID-19 pandemic has really just caused burnout in healthcare professionals to begin with. So while this is the 2020 data, I can't wait for the 2022 vacancy survey to get published because I have a feeling that's just going to blow these numbers out of the water. So there's just not enough of us. And then the other problem is that our board pass rates have been going down nationally as well. So you can see, I had pulled some of the data from ASCP. This is just for the MLS, which is the bachelor level degree. There are associate level degrees as well. But you can see the pass rates are going down and the mean scores are going down. So this is a computer adaptive exam, and you have to get at least a 400 minimum to pass. And you can see that the average score, or the mean score in 2022 was a 454. So we're getting pretty low. So we're having an issue with students actually learning the stuff and understanding what they're doing. So that's where my idea of active learning comes in. Because we see active learning all over in higher education, that it engages students in the materials. They're doing more than just sitting there and passively learning. They're reflecting, evaluating, analyzing, synthesizing, communicating about what it is that they're doing. We're seeing that it does help with those cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains, which are actually all areas that we have to make sure our students are able to do. And then it's shown to promote that transfer of what they learn in the classroom to the workplace, which is important because, if they're going to have to do it for a job, they got to learn it. So this is my idea of active learning. It's combining the techniques you're using, the environment that it's in, and getting the engagement of the students together to make active learning. And then that leads to that higher order cognition, the critical thinking skills, the problem solving skills, and the real world application that we need to have. So my research design, this is where I'm at right now. This does not mean that this is how it's going to be, because this is just what came out of my head this semester, and I have not gotten the okay from anybody yet. So this is just where I am currently. Would be sort of an evaluative case study, because we want to make judgment and see if active learning is as useful as.
Could you try again?
What's wrong? Oh, okay. So we want to evaluate the utility of active learning in the curriculum. It is bounded to those university-based medical laboratory science programs that offer didactic courses before students go to clinical rotations. Within the education realm of MLS, there are hospital-based programs and there are university-based programs. I'm not messing with the hospital-based stuff right now. So going through, I pulled all of the NACLS accredited programs, which is 244, pulled out 3 of them because they had listed that they're either closing or suspending enrollment, pulled out another 3 because their curriculum doesn't meet my requirements, and then pulled out another 92 because they're hospital-based, which leaves about 146 programs. Some are small, some are large. If I average about 5 faculty in a program, that could be over 700 people I could send this out to and hopefully get some sort of a response from.
That's a good number.
Yeah. So I have 4 research questions looking at how do they use active learning techniques in their didactic courses. I'm purposefully not worrying about lab courses and clinical rotations because they're naturally active learning. So doing didactic courses, the professor would want to do this and they would initiate that. How do they adopt, how do they adapt to make active learning techniques authentic to application? What do they believe are the impacts of active learning on student success? And then how do they evaluate the active learning techniques that they're doing? So kind of the, what are you doing? How do you make it cool? What do you think it does? And how do you evaluate that it's really working kind of idea? The sampling plan, like I said, would be the faculty at the university-based programs, reaching out to them directly because the NACLS list gives you their websites, so I should be able to pull it there, but also requesting them to share it with anybody they think would be good. And then we also have a forum through our professional organization that I can send it out to make sure that people who do read it actually qualify. I have these questions that they would have to answer. So if they answer no to the first 2 or yes to the third one, they would just be thanked and be disqualified from it because that would not fit within that case study bounding. And then just for this is the part that isn't really greatly evolved yet, so I'm still working on it. To answer the different research questions, these would be the elements I would use. So I would send out a survey to start with a bunch of questions that I have not written yet. Ask people to participate in a follow-up interview if they're interested, and those who are, they would have an interview questions that I would have to write probably after I evaluate the survey to see what kind of questions would be good. And then also if they would be willing to submit any kind of artifacts that represent the active learning techniques that they do.
That's important.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And then I do have a couple resources about evaluating active learning techniques that I'm going to look at and see if I can pull something and create like almost a rubric or something to look at. And then my hopeful timeline is just kind of very clustered together. So this summer, work on getting my committee, my research questions finalized, working on my lit review and get my proposal together. So like at the beginning to mid-August, present the proposal, get my IRB submitted, create my survey, get that sent out. September to December, collecting data, doing the interviews and such. And then in the spring, analyzing it, writing it, and then hopefully defending it and be done and good.
So let's see if we have any questions for Barbara here. Thank you, Barbara. It's great. Actually, it looks very well organized. I will point out that I teach a course called R546 that gets at active learning strategies. but so far it's not. It's normally in the fall. It's not been announced when I'm going to offer it. So you're welcome to sit in, Barbara, after this. Probably won't be to a year from fall, unfortunately. Any questions for Barbara, or comments, or helpful guides? Everyone's so impressed. They're overcome with joy. Tears are streaming from their eyes. It's such a high quality idea.
I will say that this class has helped me sort of get these ideas together, and it really wasn't until probably this last, really honestly, writing my committee question for quals helped me get a lot of this finally together, because my committee question was looking at active learning used in healthcare education, and it really just pulled it all together for me. So it's only been in this past month or so that I've finally gotten my crap together.
All I can say, this to me, it looks like you're on your way. I don't see any flaws here personally. Jen or Therese, you're the experts I brought back, and Therese has her hand up, so you might have a comment for her.
Hi, Barbara. I think that this is a super exciting study. I would be interested to see what you find out of this study and what comes out of it. I was looking at your data collection methods, and one of the things that you might want to be mindful of is, depending on how many people you interview, if you said about 700 participants, how many of those that you would want to interview, that could be a lot of interviews.
It could,
so
yeah.
Something you might think about is maybe doing focus groups along the lines of people who have similar courses, or like faculty who teach in one particular course, and then do focus groups with them. So that way you get, okay, if it's 10 courses, you have for each of the different courses the strategies that they're using. Just something to consider that I thought about.
No, yeah, it's definitely, I figure if there's like 700 people it goes to, I'll probably be happy with 10% response.
Yeah.
And then maybe 10% of them would be willing to do an interview.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was thinking of is we do have different areas of lab that we teach. So like I am a microbiologist, but we have chemistry, we have blood bank, we have hematology. And in the survey questions, when I talk about active learning, I want to kind of break it down by the different areas to see if we're seeing a trend of more active learning in certain disciplines than others.
Yeah,
So that
I
would
think
be
that
good with
would
the
be,
interview questions as well.
Yep, I think that would be helpful. And one more thing that I was going to say that just went out my mind, but I'll get back to it.
So one more, maybe you can put in the chat if you think of it. One more comment before we move on to Jake. Jake will be up next. Sorry, Jake, to put you on the spot. Jennifer?
I have a comment. So I think the topic is really interesting, and I think it's really good because it comes from your own experience as well. Like you've decided on a topic that you've observed personally, and you find that topic interesting. So for me, for my dissertation, because I was a full-time student, I couldn't have that like real life experience in deciding in knowing like the needs and the stuff like that in my target organization. But what I did was talking to practitioners, and that's how my study started. And I think your colleagues would really appreciate the research results. One thing I'd like to suggest, or maybe you might consider, is reviewing the Canvas courses as like archival data, something like that, rather than like interviewing them and asking all the details. You can have you can ask them to add you as an observer, something like that, and then you can see for yourself what kind of techniques they are using to promote active learning. And if you do that alongside with interviews and surveys, I think you will have a stronger findings.
Triangulation.
Yeah,
Therese thought of her final comment. Therese?
Oh, I put it in the chat, but I know you mentioned artifacts, and going back to Jennifer's point, when I looked at faculty's use of universal design principles in my research, and I did go through their learning management system courses and evaluated how are they using universal design principles. So I think either collecting artifacts and also going through their courses as an observer gives you a lot of information and really does help you to triangulate and tell that story, demonstrate how are they using it.
Okay.
So we should move on to Jake. I want to see if Chris can hang around. I don't know if he's working at Fidelity today out there in New Mexico, and if he can stay a little bit, or is he have to? Okay, great.
Stay a little bit, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'll try and do Jake, and then we'll go boy, girl. So we'll come back to you a couple after Jake. But Jake and Karen, you might think about focus groups that was mentioned, by the way, just as an aside. And Paula just arrived. So Paula, Karen, and Chris, we didn't celebrate. Chris also passed quals. So we have to have a toast to Chris. No revisions required. So cheers to you.
Thank you.
So you missed the toast that we've had. We've toasted to Jennifer. She got Outstanding Dissertation Award. She's getting it tomorrow at the conference, the International HRD or ISPI conference. Is it in Minneapolis or where are you at?
I'm at Williamsburg, Virginia.
Oh, that's right. This one's Williamsburg. Yeah, the other one was Minneapolis. So we have that to toast. We have Rachel passed quals. That was toasted. Carrie passed dossier 3. That was toasted already. Barbara got promoted to associate clinical professor. We toasted to that. What else? A couple others. Tina passed quals as well. And one more person in here passed quals, but Barbara passed quals, right? And Soon May is going to defend her dissertation in a month. That was the big one. She's got it all in. I got 5 advisees graduating and going through commencement in 2 weeks. 5. I'm reading a lot of dissertations. Plus today I had one pass who's not my advisee, looking at play groups, virtual play groups during the pandemic, interacting with one another. It's a language ed dissertation, 250 pages long. But anyways, she passed with no revision. Well, if she wants to make some, she can. And then my advisee's got a couple of awards with me. So there are a lot of things. So we'll toast again before we go on to Jake. A big toast to everyone since Paula missed it. And Karen missed the toast and Chris missed the toast. So yeah, we've got a lot to celebrate here tonight. And this is the way graduate school should be every week, not just once a year, This is the way in the 1990s, in the late 90s, IST students would go out every Friday afternoon to Bear's Place and have a good time. We don't do that anymore. I don't know what's happened, but there were more master's students at that time. And we had a Follies once a year where students would make fun of the faculty. In fact, we make fun of the students. It was skits, it was comedy, it was a riot. We don't do that anymore either. So at least we can cheer a little bit here virtually with one another. Jake, you want to inspire us into all the economics of education that's coming our way. And as you know, paying for the computer science instruction is not easy. So tell us what that entails.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm frog in my throat. So yeah, basically, Dr. Bonk suggested the other day that maybe I talk a little bit about my professional life and how that sort of led me to my dissertation topic or where it is currently. So basically, I serve as the Director of Teaching and Learning at the Indiana Department of Education currently. And so me and a team of 8 or 9 other people basically are tasked with managing Indiana's academic standards across all content areas, including computer science, which is a particular area of passion of mine. But we also manage a lot of grants to schools and, statewide professional development initiatives. And more recently—
Jake, you said computer science, right?
Yes, computer science.
So that sounds like Jiyoung's topic. So she should probably go next, just to prep her and warn her that she'd be a good one to come after you. And then we'll get to Chris after that. So go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here really quick, just to show a couple of things. So in 2018, legislation was passed that required all schools in Indiana to offer computer science. So offering just at least one course in every high school, and then students receiving standards-based instruction every year in grades K through 8. And so there's been a lot that I've had to do at the department related to this in terms of tracking progress and managing funds to work with professional development providers to ensure that teachers have the knowledge and skills and confidence that they need to bring these types of experiences to their students in their classrooms. And on top of that, something that's sort of interesting and a little specific to Indiana is the way that career and technical education courses, including computer science courses, receive, schools that offer them receive additional funding. And so I'm going to show another document. This document is published by the Department of Workforce Development every year. And basically, they look at all the career and technical education courses that can be offered in the state and assign what's called a flame rating to them. And so it's based on the level of demand of the particular career that the course would be attached to and the types of wages that are typically attached to those types of jobs. And so high wage, high demand areas receive a lot of funding. So for example, if a school were to offer this topics in computer science course, they would be eligible to receive $1,020 per student enrolled in that course per semester. And so when you think about
per student, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And so to me, that's a big incentive for schools to offer those kinds of courses, right? And so what I'd really like to dig into with in my dissertation topic is how state career and technical education funding policy influences equitable implementation of computer science education. And so how does the availability of this funding that's out there have any kind of relationship to how, when, where, and why computer science education is implemented? So some of the specific things I'd like to look into is the relationship between the amounts of career and technical education funding that a school or corporation receives and whether they offer computer science courses, how many computer science courses they offer, how many students take the courses that they offer, etc. And then, so that's more like the quantitative component of my study. And then I'd like to also look at how how the availability of that funding influences corporation or school level decision makers and their decision-making processes around whether or not they offer computer science, how much computer science, how they recruit teachers potentially, those types of things. And so really just sort of in a nutshell and to wrap it up, I really am interested in sort of the crux of computer science education and education policy. And so I see myself as a scholar that really sort of operates in and wants to interrogate that space specifically. And so again, this is sort of contextualized to Indiana because of the specific funding mechanism that I'm interested in looking at. But this is kind of where I'm at right now. I hope to be in a good place to defend my proposal sometime in early fall, like some others, and then really hoping to be able to collect data throughout the fall semester and then analyze and write in the spring and hopefully graduate close to a year from now, if at all possible. So
okay, you can stop sharing your screen there and we'll go to Jennifer and Charisse first. Do either of you have a comment or a question for Jake? And if not, does anyone have a comment or a question for Jake? I have one that just want to make a comment that Chris is studying, sort of similar, Chris. You might want to when you come up, you want to talk about the linkage between what you're doing and what Jake is doing, just as a little and Jiyoung, you might want to talk about a link between what you're doing, what Jake is doing. Jake, you're mostly at the secondary level, right? Is there any elementary in there?
My study will focus more at the secondary level. Yeah. Yes.
Whereas Jiyoung goes down to the elementary level and Crystal goes up to the adult level, but they're very similar in some ways to what you're doing. Any comments, suggestions?
I was just thinking, I wonder if it would be interesting, I don't know if you could find this out or not, if the schools that are implementing those computer science classes, if there is like if it influences the decisions that the students make when they go, say, into college, or what kind of careers they end up doing, if it's really impacting what their future is by having those computer science classes, or if it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't we kind of do that, Jake?
We have kind of dug into some of those areas, like how experiences in either middle school or high school computer science influence a student's likelihood that they would take another computer science course or potentially major in computer science in college. So we did kind of look at some of that. I think that's something that I struggle with a little bit, is that there's so many questions that I want to ask in this space. And so that's one thing I have to kind of remind myself, is to like rein it in a little bit and try to focus as much as possible to get through this. But I think there's more work that could be done in the area you're talking about, Barbara. So I appreciate that.
Any other comments or suggestions? I think you're going to have, in some ways, the most difficult time is going to be at the start of your dissertation. But once you get in, you're going to see it all fall. All the data will fall for you, because it's pretty conscripted in terms of what you're studying. But deciding on those elements, what are the pieces that you want to, what are the artifacts that you actually want to look at? Once those decisions have been made, it's going to all fall in place, So the committee that approves yours, is really important. What they say to you as to what is the scope, right?
Yeah.
And that's the critical piece, because once you know that scope, the data's there and you work for them, so you can get that.
Yeah.
Like most of us doing studies, we worry about getting access. You've got access, right? So for the most part, because it's not, is there human subjects involved in yours? It's all data off of databases.
Well, a lot of the quantitative analysis I want to do will be from public records type of data, but I do want to conduct some interviews to get to that decision-making, piece of it too. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That could be a little harder, but important to do. If it's okay, we'll go to Jiyoung and just give Jake a round of applause here. Really good. I'm a former accountant, so I really like that as your study. Jiyoung, you want to enlighten us as to where you're at in your study? I know you've got a ways to go yet before you defend your proposal, but you want to tell us at least where you're at.
Yeah. So my research is focused on computational thinking and integrated literacy subject area. The main goal in our CT, like CS field, is to integrate CS CT part into every subject area. But right now, it's kind of common to see how to integrate CT into science and math, but we do not really talk about how we can integrate this one with literacy part, which is super important, especially for little kids. So I'm kind of developing the program using Scratch Juniors, which is block coding program for young children. And then I kind of asked them to create story animation with that program, using the one that they already wrote, could be diary or something that they just write in their class. I need to talk about this with the teachers later. But anyway, in that program, you basically help them to use Scratch Junior to create the animation. So I've heard that program, I want to see their difference of understanding of CT and the writing skill as well. So for the CT part, I'm going to check algorithm, simple group, nested group, if then decomposition, those kind of things we are talking CT practices. That's the term we are talking about. So I'm going to see that part. And then for the writing skill, I'm going to see like development ideas, writing organization, and word choice. So, and then I already have the rubric, which I already finished the reliability and then validity test already. So it's totally fine to use that one. So my first question is like, I want to see the difference between difference after applying this program of their computational thinking practices. And then the second one is how this learning program impact their writing skills. And then my third question would be, how does learning within like this program impact their CT learning experience? This could kind of like perception of computational thinking of them. And then the last question would be like their perception about writing skill as well after experiencing this program. So it's kind of mixed method study. I found the place. I still kind of talking about the teachers, how I can design this study well, since I feel like the most important thing is it's not like I do not want to teach that one. I hope teacher can teach this one because teachers know their student well. So that I'm trying to talking about this part with teacher, and then we are actually co-designing this program together. So yeah, this is where I am. I hope I could conduct data collection in August, hopefully. Yeah.
So when she first had a proposal to me, yeah, it's computer science related. This is great. It's not, but it's not my area. You know, it's not computer science. Computer coding goes in this year and comes out the other year. I've taken basic programming 3 times. But then when I read her revision, I looked at it and said, this is a different proposal than what I read before, because now it's about literacy. It's about writing. And now I thought, well, my dissertation was computers and writing. I'm thinking, well, how can I help her and provide some resources that are important? Because I don't know anything about computer science, you know, but I know a fair bit about writing and literacy and all these things. So I got really interested in yours because it's a intersection between disciplines, between science and literacy, which is fascinating, you know, and that's where the critical question should be, at the intersection of disciplines, right? And plus it's about active participatory learning, students' autonomy and creation and generating. So she's in this new area of participatory learning, contributory learning, constructivism, right? Constructivism, they're building products. So it's Papert and so forth. It's writing as thinking, and all this stuff is in this dissertation. So it's a fascinating, you know, area. But you have to, what are you going to put in the literature review? Because you can be touching everything in that literature review. You can talk about learning theories, you can talk about literacy theories, you can talk about computational thinking. All this, it's going to be hard for you to constrain yourself, but yet to educate your committee at the same time, because you don't want a dumb committee. You want your committee to know what you're doing, right? That might be the most difficult part of yours, is figuring out which pieces and how far to go with each piece and where you can cut back, what references to include. You saw it in your dossier 2 defense. People wanted certain references that they like, even though it might not have been exactly what you're attempting to do. So people will have different takes on your dissertation based on if they're a literacy person, if they're a computer science person, if they're a learning theory person. They're going to have things they want as references in your dissertation, which will make it fun, but will make it challenging.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. So that, like, my minor advisor, she's in LCLE part, so she's helping me a lot on that part. Since even though I took like several classes in their department, still I feel like I'm so beginner on that part.
Right.
So yeah.
Dr. Pawan.
Yeah, we have.
I know. So that's good you have her on there, because she crosses IST. Does anyone have a question for Jiyoung? Comments? Teresa's smiling, so I assume she's got a question.
I think that this is really super interesting. I like the idea of you bringing these 2 disciplines together. And I just had one question in terms of your data collection. You're working with teachers, so I assume you'll be collecting data from teachers, and you're also collecting data from students as well? Okay, so if your timeline to collect data is August, just be mindful of it taking maybe a little bit longer because you have students that you'll be collecting data, and IRB usually takes a little bit longer if you're dealing with students. And the second thing is watch your timing, which was something that I learned when working with faculty, because you have to be mindful of when they off and when they come back. So I know summer break for teachers, when they come back, you just make sure you plan that part well.
Yeah, I think that's great suggestions. That's why I really made sure with my professor. So when you were gonna come back, and then also that's why I'm talking with teacher kind of every time still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since, they always have something issue like field trip, or sometimes they need to go to like workshop.
Professional development workshops when you think
Exactly.
you'll be able to collect data and they're doing professional development. So just be mindful of those things.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Factor that into your timeline.
The time is always important, even as Sunmei found out the defense time. Faculty might leave in the summer, right, Sunmei? She's got to negotiate the defense time. So would Mangwan, who was in Mangwan's going to defend Mangwan Zhao, and two others. They're trying to create the time. When can they defend? They're ready, but the faculty aren't here, So any other comments? Thank you, Therese, on that. Rachel, you haven't spoken. You came in, you have a comment, Rachel.
I was just thinking it was really interesting, and I don't have any, I think, feedback to add. Just it sparks a lot of thoughts about computational thinking in other fields, because it does seem like a lot of folks, and even me for sure, would just kind of separate that. Oh, that's computer science. I don't need to really think about that. But clearly there's a value. So good choice.
It'll be a fun one to do once she gets into it. Setting it up is hard. It'll be fun once you get going. That'll be a fun to do. Observations of yours will be because you'll see the people generating, the kids will be generating stuff and they'll be excited. All that, but capturing the excitement might be hard. What you see and what you put on paper is going to be differences, but yours is in the moment, right? So are you going to have someone be a second rater of what you observe?
Yeah, so like I have one expert from LCA part, language education, and then one expert from CS. So it'll be two more, so three. So
are you filming any of this, or just taking the artifacts of the completed code?
Yeah, I will do survey and then artifact analysis. So artifact interview analysis. So I need more persons.
So Chris goes next, and I'm thinking I won't pick on anyone. So does anyone want to go after Chris? Be a volunteer to be the fourth or fifth? Yeah. Okay, Tina after Chris. Chris is next. Chris, why don't you enlighten us as to what you're thinking about doing and how the world of corporate training is in dramatic change today from what it once was. We see it, Chris.
I need to unmute myself.
Yeah, we didn't hear you.
I got the sharing down, but not the unmute. But thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I'm glad that we were all able to accomplish great things over this semester. But I'm just going to briefly go over this. I put this together pretty quick. But just to give you a brief background, I currently work in a corporate workspace or corporate sector in the financial industry, and it's a global financial industry. So there's many different people across the world, in Ireland and Japan and all over, right? All over the United States. We're primarily based in the United States. And when I think of this this dissertation, I'm thinking of it as creating a foundation for when I'm finished or after I'm finished with this program. What's next, right? So I hope to do a program evaluation. I hope to do further research with those who hold doctorates in the corporate workspace, who have that passion, that drive to conduct research as well. So that's kind of my rationale behind this, is keeping it basic in a sense and not making it too complex, but at the same time laying some foundation to support that future research. So just keeping that in mind as I go through this. So for the agenda, I have my quick agenda here. So I have the purpose statement, the research questions, sampling and research design, data analysis, and limitations. Each one is very brief. For the purpose statement, there is this study, I'm going to read it off. Actually, this study aims to investigate the perspectives of employees who are given the opportunity to learn self-directedly in the workplace so that decision makers, so HR and other senior leadership, can better understand how employees increase work-related knowledge and skills. So in my current workspace, bi-weekly for 2 hours, 2 hours bi-weekly, associates or employees are given time to learn on their own, or in a group, or at a departmental level, right? So my focus is specifically to self-directed learning. We currently do not know how employees are using that time, what resources they're using, what techniques they're using. And if we can't share those stories, then that's concerning. That might go away. The learning program might go away. There's no justification right now. So this is something my colleagues brought to me who supports those learning days. And this is kind of where I've steered in my direction of the dissertation. For the method, sampling, research design, and data analysis, keeping it very simple, and I would hope that you all can share some feedback with me because I'm always getting new ideas, always changing this, and I need to have something laid down solid pretty soon. But for the sampling, the participants are from 2 organizations within the same organization. So we have a lot of organizations within our organization, whether it's 50,000 people, whether it's 5,000 people, we have all these different organizations. The sample size, I hope, between both organizations, between 20 to 30 participants. I'm not sure why that says 23. That's part of rushing through this. And then the one sample group is the relationship management group. So they're the relationship between the product, so the software, like, for example, Canvas, who owns or who supports Canvas and makes the decisions, and then who the other side is the technology side who develops and maintains it, right? So there's that relationship group between, and in this case, it's HR products. And then we have the technology and product development group who actually develops those. So those groups are from 2 different organizations. The research design is aimed to be a qualitative research design that's a semi-structured interviews with open-ended questions, no closed-ended questions. And it's going to be a descriptive design. And then for the data analysis piece, it's hopefully aiming for a thematic analysis. I'm not sure, there might be a better analysis for this, so I'd hope to get some feedback from you all on this as well. And then I'm going to touch more about on some limitations that I would like some feedback on too. I'm going to jump to the research questions really quick. For the research questions, so how do employees learn self-directedly when given the opportunity to learn in a corporate workspace? So I want to learn about the learning strategies, the techniques, and the educational resources that they use, first of all, right? And then the second piece is, what are the perspectives? What are their experiences, right? So what challenges do they experience? Do they have the time? What other barriers may there be? And then what are the benefits as well? So I would like to learn those as well. Keeping it very simple, I started my research questions about just broadly from informal learning in the workplace and have narrowed it down to self-directed learning. So really hoping to narrow this down some more and refine it to make it not complex. The last piece, and I know there should be a lot more limitations than this, but these are the 2 that really stand out. So working in different time zones and connecting with different people virtually for these interviews, there's going to be time constraints. So that's something I need to be aware of and mindful of going forward with this. And then for the data source, currently I'm only aiming for interviews. I really have to be careful with the data I try to collect, because the more I request, the more red flag or red tape that I'm going to run into. There's quite a bit. I learned that I need to get approval from compliance and communications department, as well as the risk department. So it's not just one group, it's a lot of groups. So my ask can't be too much, and it has to be realistic. But those are my limitations. That's all I have, and I'm open to any feedback that you all have.
Okay, why don't you stop the share at this point? I will point out that tomorrow I'm presenting on self-directed learning myself to George Mason University as the first GoTech Fellow for Global Education, blah, blah, blah. I have 6 studies, self-directed learning I'm going to go through at 1 o'clock. If anyone wants my notes, and Chris, you might want my slides, just write me an email, or I could send everyone the link to my slides. I'll also point out that he can't mention the name of the company, but it's a financial company, but think of the exploration people who are like Christopher Columbus, Magellan, and people like that. You might know which company we're talking about. Anyone have comments or questions? I think Jen, I was going to say, Jen probably has a question. She's got the business background. So Jen?
Yeah, so I think you're off to a good start, but in regards to 20 to 30 participants, I think you really need to think about the sampling methods, because whether you want to like purposefully sample like the high performers in the organization, or you're just going to randomly select the employees, that the results would be, dramatically different depending on the people that you interview. And also, I think one of the risk of this study could be like I think it should be different from just giving them a Jamboard and then write down what do you do in your 2-hour weekly learning sessions. It has to go beyond that, because somebody can say, I read a book. Somebody can say like, I take like a MOOCs course or something like that, and then it's like, so what? It has to lead to something that is like, meaningful as a dissertation study. So I think the study design, you will be interviewing and we'll be talking about the challenges and, and all those important detailed information. But it has to be carefully designed to get like the most out of your participants. And I think when you write down your proposal or prospectus or anything like that, even if you call your 2 organizations as organizations, I think I would, just for clarity, I would say 2 divisions within the same organization, something like that, because it's going to be constantly confusing if you say 2 organizations within one organization, something like that. Yeah. So even if you use the word organization, call it something else like division or sections or whatever, teams. And I think that would be helpful for your advisors and potential readers.
Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. I think the big piece, like what I've heard from others as well as my colleagues, is the so what piece, right? So it's understanding like, yes, okay, that I'm doing this, and this while I'm learning self-directedly, but like, so what? Like, what type of impact does that make? And that's something where I haven't been able to solve. And I would love for feedback from you all, because I think that's very important, right? And I think when I think of it, I want to learn more about this so I can eventually create a self-directed learning guide for my next work after I graduate. Not at this point, that's just too complex, right? So how do you make this dissertation not complex and easy enough to be able to just navigate and finish through it in a realistic time frame?
Yeah. Chris, I know you're probably at work still, so you might not be able to do it, but if you can put your camera on so people could see who you are in case they want to run into it at a conference someday, they'll know who you are and can chat with you. And if you're not allowed to do it there, that's okay.
I can't, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. And Rachel had a comment.
Your topic reminds me of requirements for professional development for educators. You have to pursue some kind of typically self-directed learning, and there's 2 positions or 2 roles for your employer. The first one is they typically provide a list of what's acceptable and what's not, and that's always interesting to see what that list looks like. And the second one is, at my accreditor in particular, we say the company, the employer has to support, encourage, and I'm forgetting the third term, but it doesn't mean pay for. And we always have to talk about that with faculty. So one of the ways that we often see the company support and encourage PD is by tying it into performance evaluation. Regardless of what you actually learn, there's not always a metric for, did you improve your job related skill set? It's more like, did you set a goal for yourself and achieve that goal in the time allotted? And so it's not always about a measurable outcome for the learning. It's just, are you a lifelong learner? Which I thought related to how you're approaching the study.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the what's acceptable and what's not, I think currently there's nothing written about that, right? Someone who's participated in the learning days was able to go work on his dissertation and go out off campus, right? But then he learned that he wasn't able to do that. But then again, where is that written, right? So I think that's another finding that, hey, this isn't known. This is very exploratory. We're just given this, but we don't have any guidance. There's currently no guidance.
And I noticed that Paula dropped out. She was in for a second, so I wrote her a note to see if she got kicked out for some reason and is coming back. Any other comments for Chris? It's an interesting one because I actually have my money in the company that he's studying. So I hope the employees are getting professional development there.
Oh, yes, we're treated very well, actually too well.
It's a good company. It's a great company. I really like it. But we, again, confidentiality. Thank you, Chris. I've enjoyed reading your updates on the project, and I'll read your final with great anticipation. Tina is going to go next, and then after Tina, we were doing boy, girl, so maybe we should go to Tawfik after Tina. So Tina?
So before I start, in our study group, we decided this is what's going to be delivered to you, but I'm going to just show it right now. So let's see if I can share it. We remembered that you wanted to run more miles than Forrest Gump.
June 5th. Well, more days than Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, yeah.
June 5th, if I make it that far to June 5th. So, okay, I love it. Yeah. So, smiley face. All right.
With a, where he
I do remember it in the movie.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, everyone who got that. I will wear that this summer every day for a week straight without washing it. I won't let anyone come near me. I promise to take it off between showers, but I do tend to wear everything for like a week before. Yeah. So I will wear this proudly outdoors, and I'll wear it on June 5th. I'll wear it on June 4th when I tie Forrest Gump, and I'll wear it on June 5th. So thank you for whoever got that.
I made it in my lab.
That's great.
So I suggest washing it inside out, because sometimes that vinyl isn't.
Well, cheers to that, everyone. We'll break for a little toast, one more toast, and thank you. And whatever Carrie's having, I want one of those. Carrie, what are you drinking?
It's a beer called the Blue Moon.
Okay.
Blue Moon, yeah, a white beer.
So where do they make that? In Canada or US or both?
US. I think it's in Golden,
Colorado. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Thank you. I will get some. Go ahead, Tina.
All right. So this was a very quick, as you can see, super duper rough draft of my dissertation proposal, and a lot of just quick thoughts. And so any input would be fantastic. In that screen you hear is my corgi in the background, so if she starts barking, sorry. So the problem statement, as we all know, the whole thing about STEM professionals and not having enough STEM professionals. I work for the Navy, so Navy base in Indiana, and I'm the STEM coordinator there. And just recently, I became the STEM coordinator for all the NAVSEA sites. So, which means
Is that a promotion? Is that a promotion?
Nope, just
Okay.
extra work without extra pay.
Okay.
So, but it's very important to us to, you know, ensure that pipeline is full of well-trained STEM professionals, and we invest in a large catalog of STEM programs, robotics. We enable our employees to volunteer on time in the classroom. We do lots of competitions, science fairs. We have a large catalog of programs, but most of these evaluations of the programs are quantitative, and it's really just skimming the surface of, like, how many students did we push through, how many programs do we have, and how much money do we spend. I collect these metrics every year for my site, and again for all the sites across the United States. And we have to report them up to the Chief of Naval Research and say, this is what we did. And again, they're mostly just, and then if they are qualitative, it's just sound bites, like Susie came in in 2015 and now she works with us, you know, just good stories. Not really what I would call a qualitative research, just nuggets, I think. So there's not a lot of research on the attributes of the programs, like, are they hands-on? Do they enable peer connections or mentor connections or grow our science identity? There's not really any research on that. And then also, in general, the research on STEM experiences mostly looks at students' intentions, and not, you know, hey, Johnny, you went to this camp. Do you really want to be a STEM professional now? And, you know, before and after kind of studies, and not so much, did it really work? What happened? So that is my problem statement, which brings us to the research questions. What I want to use is STEM professionals at Crane. At first, I was thinking early STEM professionals. Now I think I'm just going to cast a wide net to all the STEM professionals. So what that means is scientists, engineers, technicians that work at Crane. So I have about 2,000 people who are STEM professionals at Crane. And I want to know what experiences did the Navy-related STEM professionals have that motivated them towards the STEM career. So just what did you do that, you know, motivated you to do a STEM career? And then what aspects of these experiences, what was it about that you did that motivated you towards this STEM career? And then this is where it kind of gets weird, like where did each of these aspects align? Like, I got pictures and it makes a little more sense there.
Yeah, show us the pictures.
So I don't know why. Yeah, anyway, this was just kind of my research on, this is the lit review on research question 1, which was pretty much my committee question. And this was, what were the experiences that motivate people to consider STEM careers? So, you know, I went through in school and out of school, and, you know, what were these things? So it was really interesting to see that both in school and out of school things were very important, and they didn't necessarily have to be fancy schmancy. It could be as easy as watching Star Trek with your family. Seriously, that was one of them. So that was part 1 of my lit review. So anyway, so part that where we say like out of school, this is just some examples of things. Like out of school could be CPERCH or FIRST or Science Olympiad. In school, like Project Lead the Way curriculum, doing science labs, doing internships during school, science and math classes. These are all just examples of things that I found from the Lit Review that could motivate. So these are just the things. And then I went on to what were the attributes? Like what were the thing, like what are the attributes of those experiences that made them want to continue on as STEM professionals? So I kind of hit on the social cognitive career theory from Lint. And, you know, they say, you know, you have some, if somebody has self-efficacy and outcome expectations, essentially what outcome expectation means is if I do this thing, if I do a career in STEM, become an engineer or scientist, and I do the things, will I have this outcome of maybe having a good job with money or having a meaningful career, or these kind of, like, if I go to school to do that, am I going to have this outcome that I want in life? So I also, this is TBD. So how do you make people have self-efficacy, you know, hands-on, job shadowing, mentoring, outcome expectations, maybe do career awareness seminars, talking with mentors. Again, this is a TBD, have to find this during the Lit Review. So sample attributes could be like hands-on, mentor connections, peer connections. You built your ID, your STEM ID, career awareness. So for example, like CPERCH, this is an underwater robotics program that we do. Why did, you know, maybe if somebody picked CPERCH as something that motivated them to be an engineer, why? Was it because it was hands-on? Because the mentors? Was it because the peer connections? Was it because they became like, I think I could be a STEM professional because I put together this underwater robot and we won national competitions. So that's kind of where I'm like at that. And I want to do a mixed methods, and I'm thinking concurrent. So where we could do like a survey via questionnaire at the NSWC Crane professionals, and then also interviews kind of in parallel. And I was just noodling around with Qualtrics a little bit, and, you know, where they could pick their top 3 STEM experiences. Dr. Leftwich suggested that we narrow it down to like top 3 or 4, so they're not answering the questionnaire for 10 years or something. So we just like, what are your top 3 that made you want to be a STEM professional? And then, you know, once you could do Qualtrics where you say, okay, depending on which ones you answer, now for CPERCH, how much did this impact you? And what kind of attributes did CPERCH have? Was it hands-on? Were you able to connect with mentors? Were you able to connect with like-minded peers? And then, you know, have the very the open-ended question. Is there anything else you want us to know? And maybe the sample interview, tell me something. We need to mirror the interview and kind of the survey. So that's it. That's my initial.
So this reminds me of Jiyoung's and of Jake's. Jake's at the data point and Jiyoung's at the active learning point. You know, also, you know, Barbara talked about active learning as well, but this is really, and hers is science too, so STEM related. So it relates to a lot of the dissertations that we heard about today. So many people might have a comment on this. I know Karen's also studying in chemistry as a STEM study as well. So many STEM studies in here. Any comments on her data or her ideas? Any advice? I know we're going to start to lose people as we go a little longer into this, but I think yours is very organized. You've got a lot there. You've well on your way. You've passed your quals. So I see nothing slowing you down at this point. My observation is you sound like you didn't have quite this handle on it back in January, but what you do now, I think you got more focused and you got more definitive in your data points and what you're going to look at. Still, the question number 4 is a little fuzzy, as you pointed out, and your advisors will decide on whether that's the right question or you might have to refine number 4. I like number 4. Fine. Carrie, do you have any comments for Tina? You were laughing earlier, so I thought maybe you have a comment.
No, I really impressed by I'm really impressed by how much details are presented with the research questions. I don't remember why I was laughing, probably because of the beer. That's why I don't remember. But yeah, it's really a lot of work, and I can see how you try to triangulate that with service and self-report, more qualitative questions. So yeah, but it's also always a lot of work to do. Yeah.
And I'm kind of trying to figure out how do I pick the interviewees, and I'm hoping that I can. I have a lot. I've been in this position for 12 years, so I have a lot of people that I knew from little bitty when they were middle school and high school, and I was coaching them in robotics, and now they have positions at Crane. So it's really interesting. I feel like I can reach out to these people and say, would you mind, giving me a minute of your time? Because we've been with these, I shouldn't call them kids, but I feel like they're kids, and they're my daughter's age and maybe just a teeny bit older. They've been doing robotics and all that stuff with us for a very long time.
So we've had 5 people so far. We have 4 left to go. I think I'm going to change the order. I think because Karen's closely linked to this one. It's a STEM study. I may have her next, and maybe Carrie after Karen, since they both start with a C. Or no, I think Carrie's will link in too as well. So let's do that. We'll come back to Tawfik. I'll put you on the spot later. But any other comments here for Tina? So we actually have a toast for getting the first 5 viewed. They're all great. So, and 4 more to go. And Karen, would you like to say anything about, you've been in this class 2 semesters in a row, kind of sitting in here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, been sitting in here.
She's from the University of Houston, and working at Houston Community College, and is in the chemistry area. And they've been doing virtual, a lot of video conferencing there for advising in general, and they've also done video conferencing for her labs within chemistry, more specifically within the classes that she teaches. So it seems like Houston Community College has spent a lot of time, money, and effort to make sure the students at the community college don't drop out, and they're getting personalized feedback in the mentoring programs and the advising programs, but also in the courses there. And not every course has this virtual component of a lab. Only at 4 of them out of a larger pool, and that's what Karen's studying. I don't want to steal your thunder, but I want to give a little background. I've been at Houston Community College maybe a decade more ago. It's a huge place. There's a lot of students. So you want to tell us a little bit, Karen?
Yes, sure. I'm actually going to I'm going to share my slide because I kind of, yeah, I'll share my slide. I actually kind of introduced that a little bit when I prepared my slides, so just so I don't get nervous. So I'm just going to go through that. And actually what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the Synchronous online labs, but I just wanted to mention a little bit some of my writing journey, actually.
Yeah, and you have a similar background to Therese in terms of where you grew up or where you.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So Therese is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I am too.
Wow.
So cheers to that. Cheers to that. Like people in this class from the Caribbean. So, you know.
Yeah. And Paula is from Trinidad too.
All three of you. Okay.
Yeah, three of us in here. Which is very, very rare.
Yeah.
The three of us, you know. So anyway, so my background, I'm a chemist. So I studied chemistry actually up until I started teaching, basically. And I've been teaching at Houston Community College for about 17 years now. And then, you know, in the course of that time, realized that it's not just about the content. So decided to go to U of H to pursue in the College of Education to pursue a course of study in learning design and technology. So that's where I'm at actually right now.
Great program.
Yeah, just to talk a little bit about you know, my research interests and what I'm hopefully going to be studying about. I'll just talk a little bit about my paper because I just wanted to talk about the journey a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about the online labs that we do. So my research focus is on alternative methods of teaching chemistry for understanding and student success. I am particularly focusing on effective online course design and the use of virtual reality, possibly to teach chemistry, but really any alternative modalities. So my research questions were, what are I'm actually still at the candidacy stage. So I'm actually still writing my candidacy paper. But my research questions are, what are student perceptions about online chemistry lab lessons? What are faculty perceptions about online chemistry lab lessons? How do students' perceptions of their learning in an online chemistry lab lesson compare to their assessment of learning in the course? And how do student achievement of these learning goals in face-to-face courses compare to that of online courses? So those were my four questions. Like I said, I'm still working at the candidacy paper stage, and I already wrote my candidacy paper, but I'm actually going back through it because of, almost all of the interactions we've had in this course, but especially these two. Dr. Bunk had introduced to us craft of research, and I decided to go through that text basically, because it's like a text, and just make sure I'm considering all the things I should be considering in my literature review. I also, in one of our guest speakers, Dr. Denon, she talked about a book, Reason and Rigor, that she has all of her students do. And she especially, what really stood out to me was that she said that even your literature review, there should be questions in your approach to your literature review. So I wanted to go back through that book that she talked about, Reason and Rigor, and go back through my literature review and make sure I covered all my bases, because I feel like it was not as systematic, as organized as it probably should have been. So that's what I'm working on. For the labs, so I actually started working on online labs even before the pandemic occurred. But of course, when the pandemic happened, we all had to go online, and then we still had to go through a period of what do we need to consider in what type of what we offer online for students and learning. And learning in chemistry. Chemistry is one of those courses where the lab especially, the lecture, we had a few courses where the lecture is online, but the lab especially, we never did online because we always assumed that it was more, it's like an apprenticeship that we were there to really teach technique and practical skills. So it was not something we envisioned to be online. But it's important actually, because in a study that Siok did, for example, he said that 71% of community colleges actually have as a strategy, online teaching as a strategy for their future success. And then also Cooper and Klimdensky and Klimkowski and Bretz talked about the expense of having a lab and being able to run a lab and purchasing equipment and things like that. Kelly also talked about that, and then also considerations about the remote communities and giving access to remote communities to do chemistry. So those are all considerations in when we were thinking of designing our courses. Another thing that actually came up is the motivation to do chemistry. So one of the things that we did in our decision is that we decided to purchase lab kits and send out to our students and have them, so that they can develop those practical skills that, all chemistry teachers agree that that's what we're supposed to be teaching in chemistry.
Before you go to the theory, Jennifer had a comment in the chat, and I know Jennifer needs to leave. So Jennifer, go ahead. If you're still here.
Yeah, I'm here. Like you briefly mentioned about literatures being guided by research questions, like literature research questions.
Yeah.
It's widely used in the HRD field. It's called integrative literature reviews, developed by what's his full name? Richard Tureko.
Okay.
He's at Nebraska Lincoln. And so you might want to look into that if you're interested in doing a literature review as an integrative literature review. It's a lot of work, but just FYI.
Well, Jennifer, send me that, yes, and I'll forward it to Karen. Karen, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so when I was thinking about this course and thinking about designing this course, I'm considering, of course, it's constructivism all the way up. They have to do something practical that's in their learning. We wanted to teach them technique and skills. But also because it's on an online format, we've had different iterations of it. The first one, for example, everyone was pretty much working in their own silos. And when I started thinking of how this course should be designed, one of the things that I thought was missing was that in the lab, when we're physically in the lab, usually students work in peers. They have someone that they can talk about their research, their experiment with. Whereas when we had it online, everyone was in their own space. So one of the things that I did in this lab is that I started doing breakout sessions where people can work in groups and discuss their research. I also wanted to make sure that I used Universal Design for Learning, used like the tenets of Universal Design for Learning to try to create an opportunity that would, number one, motivate my students, but they would have, multiple means of expression and multiple means of action and engagement and things like that. And then also, I wanted to make it relevant, make sure that we're doing labs that are relevant, because many times the students, they associate, everything is contextualized and they associate it with the lab, but they don't know how it applies to their everyday life. So I wanted to actually introduce something that kind of makes it relevant to them and also more culturally responsive for them. Sorry, so it doesn't. There we go. So I started off by doing pre-labs. And in the pre-labs, it's all about establishing a safety mindset for the students, thinking of safety first. It's the first lab that we do. And I wanted to have that mindset throughout the lab. So in the pre-lab, before they come to the lab, actually, I have them review materials from that lab. And when they review those materials, they need to go through and create a chemical safety log for all materials in the lab. And they come with that prepared. The other reason that was important is because, remember, these are labs that they're doing at home. So we wanted them to decide where to perform the lab. And also, in the event that there is an emergency, there is a spill or there is an accident, they need to have a plan for themselves. Usually when you come in person, well, we have something, in our lab, the instructor is responsible. But in this case, you're doing the lab at home. You are the one that is responsible. So where are you going to keep your kit? Because in our kit, we have, chemicals in there also. So where are you going to keep your kit that is, going to be safe away from other people in your household? What are you going to do in the event of a spill? Wherever you're doing your experiment, do you have on hand, a fire extinguisher, paper towels for wiping up spills, kitty litter if your spill happens to be an acid or a base, baking powder or other, what materials? In our safety lab, we actually had them think of what materials they have on hand at home that they can use. And then, of course, we need to have them in that same room that they're performing the labs in. Then once we get into the lab, once we meet as a class, we give a short pre-lab lecture where I may demonstrate how to use a particular equipment. We talk about the safety again, because again, I want them to have a safety mindset throughout. Most of them are working from home and making sure that they're prepared to do that. They are going to use fires, they are going to use acids, they are going to use base, making sure they have a plan of what's going to happen if there is a spill or there's an accident.
So
and
Karen,
then
Karen, I think we only have a couple minutes left because we need to move on to another person. So can you give us kind of like the just what you could summarize?
I think I only have like two more. Yeah,
okay,
two more
great.
slides. And that's it. Yeah. Okay. So then I put them into their breakout groups, and they can communicate with each other. I still, of course they keep the camera on, and the idea is to keep the camera on the experiments. We can also monitor what they're doing. And then in the post lab, this is where the cultural responsiveness actually also comes in addition to doing it at home. We ask them questions that would number one, debrief the lab, but number two, make a connection to their home. For example, in this question here, where they needed to compare, they did a water contamination experiment of their own tap water, and then they needed to compare it with each other and also with what the state or the city. So I gave them some links to go to that, which was really interesting because then some of them, of course, were surprised by the level of contamination in their water. And just the conversations that came about because of that. So that's actually the lab. And I had the references that I was using for that, and that's it.
So comments from anyone?
Yeah, comments or questions.
I'll say I love that you're doing real world stuff on labs. This is coming from somebody who does lots of science fairs with kids, and who out of 200 or 300 science fair attendees, I have maybe a handful who know the difference between a control variable and not a control variable and independent. And we have to do these, and we're actually going to start doing how to do a science fair training for teachers. So I'll say, love it.
Any other comments or suggestions?
I really love this study. I think it's very practical and applicable in so many different settings, not just in the US-based context, but it's something that could be transferred around the world, back into the Caribbean context, I would think as well, right? Yes. One of the things that you might want to consider would be under your theoretical approaches, something called online collaborative learning theory that you can look into as well, where you do online project-based learning and that sort of thing that you can bring into your labs.
Okay, thank you.
I think also you should plan for the challenges. It's always hard to plan for the challenges, but with yours, it's a little complex, and technology is bound to have some glitches somewhere at some point. So having a big enough sample size of students in those chemistry labs might help you overcome the 1 or 2 students who aren't able to complete the particular lab assignments virtually because they had technology didn't work that day or something like that. So just, make sure you have a cushion, I think, in what you're looking at. Carrie shook her head yes. I think were you going to say something similar, Carrie?
Yeah, I am, like, my research is around using technology in an actual classroom too. And I'm shaking my hands because it's fantastic, it's really useful, but it also brings many challenges for teachers to handle like a new way of teaching. So yeah, that's why I'm saying that.
So we need to give a round of applause to Charisse, who came and helped us. She needs to run off here in a little bit. So thank you, Charisse.
Bye, everyone, and good luck. Take care. If you need anything,
thank you again.
Toast, Charisse, toast. We miss you here in Bloomington, so
Hopefully, I can be back soon, Dr. Bob. I'll let you know.
I hope you can give the commencement talk. I've been trying to get her to pick her as the commencement speaker, but it's out of my hands. I can just recommend, so we'll
bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Or we just visit her down in the Caribbean.
That can work too.
All right. Good night. Thanks for coming.
Charisse, you asked where I was from. I was born in Sando, but I grew up in Port of Spain.
Very nice. Hopefully we can connect.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And we have Carrie next. So you can duck out during Carrie's presentation. Carrie will not be offended. So Carrie, go ahead.
Or maybe I will. No, just kidding. Feel free to go. It's around food time. Yes, of course. Let me share my screen. I will make it short and sweet.
Okay.
Okay. Share this. Okay. So, slideshow. All right. So, my study, as I said, is around using technology into a classroom, and it's under the bigger context of problem-based learning, which means students work in a group to collaboratively solve a problem. That's the way of learning. And there are so many benefits and new possibilities related to this ambitious pedagogy. And we can definitely see that how kids are benefiting from using technologies in terms of engaging in joint tasks to communicate with each other, self-regulate or socially regulate their own learning practice. And back to the specific context of my research, we're using this game called EcoJourney. So long story short, the kids are working in group of 4, each have their own laptop in the classroom to collaboratively solve a problem in that game of why some sort of fish die on this small island. And we can see it's something like this. So 4 kids, 3 or 4 kids sitting around one table and working on their own laptop. They can communicate through their game chat, or they can communicate face-to-face in terms of to collaboratively create new knowledge and to figure out why the fish die in this small island. And what I want to focus on is how it brings the challenges for teachers, for teacher orchestration to be specific. Orchestration here refers to how teachers manage multi-plane, which means an individual level, a group level, and a class level under multi-constraints. All this technologies, classroom setting in like real time. How a teacher can provide just-in-time facilitation to these kids while they are playing on their own thing, and how do teachers know when to say or what to say to them? So to help teacher with that, we develop a dashboard. Dr. Bunk reminded me to show how dashboard looks like. Yes, this is how the dashboard looks like. So the section 1 here is the group progress. You can see each group is at what stage as at this game. And also, we have 2 columns. One is active participation, and then another one is eco participation. The darker the color is, the more attention the group might need, which means for this DB test 1, for this, the first group is the darkest in 2 colors, which means it is not actively participate and it is not equally participate. So in this case, we expect the teacher to see, oh, this is the case, so we might, so I might go to that group and see what's going on.
I can see that Sunmi's going to probably have questions on this. Sounds like something she would be designing. And I think Karen's probably had questions as well. But I have 2 quick questions for you. So this comes from a grant that you've designed.
Yes.
Was it a small startup money and then you went to phase 2 and now are testing it? Was it a phase 1, phase 2 kind of thing? Or was it all given at once, the grant money?
I think we won't change much about the design of the dashboard from the project. Okay. But what we can do now is, that's what I'm going to say, like we implement this dashboard into a classroom and we expect the teachers to use it. We expect the teachers to use the certain way that we design it for, but it might not happen, and it might not happen the way we want it to happen. So what my study is trying to incorporate is like a professional development part for the teachers next time. So for a new group of teachers next time, and after that we can see some improvement or some change of their behaviors using this dashboard. That's what I can do. I cannot change this dashboard for now.
Right, I understand that, but is your professional development going to be on interpreting the dashboard and using it, or on the game, teaching about how to use the game itself and scaffold the learning, or on both aspects? And is the gaming element something you designed as well? Did you design the game, or do you use the existing game?
We designed the game. So the game and the dashboards. It's
a lot.
Yeah, so it's a big money, and this is our last year of the project, so it's almost done.
Right.
Well, it involves tons of people too, so it's not just my own work. I have to clarify that.
So before you move on, I bet you Sunmi has a question. Sunmi?
Well, just I'm watching. So is the Unity that game?
Oh, the game is built in Unity, yes.
Oh, okay. And then you design the game contents, and then maybe your target will be 2 different groups. The one is, teachers, and the other one students. That's because I understand that first page maybe just teachers, right? The train teachers how to use that one, right? Dashboard, right? And after that, let them, implement that one into the classroom. Is that your purpose, or just the first page just to, train teachers, and then maybe get the result, and then visitors are good at the time, approach the schools and then let them use that?
Well, the phase one, what we're having now, and we're actually implementing it next week, is that we have introduced the dashboard to the teachers, and but there's no actually a very detailed design PD. We just say here it is, and you can see those are the functions, and please use it. And that's the phase one. And I will collect the data in the actual classroom to see how the teacher used it. And then after that, that's phase one. And after that, by analyzing how teacher used it, I developed a PD program and train the next round teachers, and have those new teachers trained by the PD actually use it in their own classrooms and see what's happening. Is there something changed, or is there something we can do with the dashboard or with another kind of tool? So yes.
Yeah, so do you have exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
How many teachers in each professional development do you have?
So in phase one, now we're collecting data from 3 teachers, and then next phase probably be another 3 teachers, which is a lot actually, because
at the same school, right? At the same school, and then you have a specific school work with you, right?
They're actually from different schools, but they are all middle school teachers with some sort of problem-based learning experience.
Wait a minute, Carrie, I cut you off. Why? You were going to explain why it's a lot of work to have 3 teachers.
Oh yes, because I'm not just talking to the teachers, I'm also seeing how they use the technology in the classroom, which means each teacher is gonna using it for at least 6 to 7 hours across 2 weeks in their own classroom. And that's how much the video data I will collect and I will analyze. So it's not,
So you've got a captive audience tonight, because Karen's interested in this, Tina's interested in this, Taufik's doing gaming, Huizhang is interested in this. Any of the 4 of you want to jump in here and ask a question? Go ahead. Taufik?
Not at the moment, but I'm really interested about the PD.
Yeah, I thought so.
Features about I haven't been in the kind of teacher professional development with teaching teachers about game-based learning. That would be fantastic.
Tina, do you have a comment?
No, not yet. It is really interesting though. Yeah.
Hey, Jean.
No, I don't have any question at this moment. Yeah, it's a really cool research, I think.
Yeah.
Very cool. Karen?
Well, my question really is on actually on the slide you have. What's the difference between the active and equal participation?
Right. That's awesome question. So this participation is based on their chat. So they're supposed to chat with each other in a game. So active participation is based on how much they chat, how many messages they've sent to each other as a group. And equal participation means if one of the kids in a 4-person group is taking maybe 80% of the talk, that is not equal. We want everybody in this group to contribute in their own way. And that's why we designed this column. So you can see that as an SD, a standard deviation of their chat in the group.
Okay, but they're also meeting face-to-face, so they can be communicating with each other live.
You got the point. Yes. So the ideal situation is that they will chat. And we are encouraging them to chat, and the teachers encouraging them to use the chat instead of verbal communication. But the reality is they will say something to each other in a classroom, and it won't be authentic if we just prevent that, so that you guys cannot talk.
Right.
So we are expecting the profound discussion will happen in the chat. And we have actually implemented this game in at least 6 or 7 classrooms for now. And with encouragement from teachers, they will use the chat.
So if you could, Carrie, in 1 or 2 minutes, we won't be able to go through all your slides. You probably got a lot more, but we're going to need to go on. So in 1 or 2 minutes, you could wrap up a little bit about this. I know I'll read more about it in your paper.
Right, yes. So I will probably just show you guys more on the dashboard. So
Okay.
when you click in this, for example, this group 3, and then you get this dashboard, and you get this group information of like how much each person is chatting, and what's their scientific explanation on the problem is, and a basic analysis based on some keywords used. So this is like a two-part dashboards. My last slide is here, 3 research questions. One is about the time, so we are thinking probably having a new technology into a classroom, a dashboard might help the teacher, but it might also take teachers time to interact with the dashboard so that they won't interact with the kids. But what will happen? That's something we don't know. That's why there's a first question. The second question is kind of how teachers use it into this 3 perspectives. And the third is how teachers use it to navigate across orchestration planes, which means different levels, individual, group, and class. And come across with the different source of data, different data analysis methods. This is a map. That's it.
Looks very structured.
I'm actually curious.
Yeah. Go ahead, Toph.
If I may have one question, I'm curious about the long-term goal of the platform. I was wondering if the platform would be like in a wide scale of users, or this platform will be available for anyone in the public area. I mean, in the internet. And then, how's that? Yeah.
Well, that's a PI question, but I will try. I think the project itself is NSF sponsored, so it is public responsibility to share it with the world. But for now, I think to implement the game and to have the dashboard still needs tons of technical support on site. So our longest or our dream is to have it so well developed and that everybody can use it for free. Yes.
Sounds excellent. Let's give her a round of applause. Very nice, Carrie. And Haejung can go next and then end with Tawfik, unless Paula comes back here. She hasn't shown back up. Haejung, I'm sorry to keep delay. I'm sorry you had to wait so long, but thanks for being patient.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I can go any order. Yeah. So, but I didn't prepare my slides. Basically, I can talk. Yeah. So my main topic is AI in computer science education, especially AI and DEI. So I'm interested in diversity and inclusive computer science education. So the framework, I remember someone already mentioned, Karen, I think you, culturally responsive, pedagogy. Yes, I am also interested in that theoretical framework. So culturally sustainable pedagogy is my theoretical background framework. So I wanted to integrate computer science education and DEI, especially inclusive and diversity. So there are many students who struggled in computer science because some students might think computer science coding programming is very difficult to learn. So maybe we can embrace their cultural background or previous knowledge or home culture or something like that, background knowledge. So maybe, yeah, I can highlight that point. So another key point of my dissertation is co-design. So I used to be a school teacher, and so I know school context. So I recruit some teachers, and I and teacher participant will develop a curriculum together. So the key point, one of the key points in my dissertation is knowing the student participants very well, because students, context, students, situation, their culture is very important. So after being familiar with student participants, I and teacher will develop curriculum, culturally responsive curricular, CS curricular together. And I hope I'm interested in underprivileged students, so I can develop some CS curricular to embrace underprivileged students' background, previous knowledge. And there are several CS curricular to embrace American African students, like a hip hop class, something like that. And also, I haven't decided subject area. It will depend on the teacher participant preference, but one of the potential subject is music class. Maybe the students have different favorite genre based on their culture or their preference. Some students might like hip hop, some students might like ballad, something like that. So there are some AI tools that help people compose music. So I can, incorporate that kind of AI tools and to spark students' motivation and interest, specifically for underprivileged students, to make them engaged. So basically, I will collect classroom recordings and reflection and interviews, and also students will have knowledge assessment as many as possible to see their progress patterns. So for data analysis, I will use video analysis for analyze video classroom recordings, and I will use thematic analysis and sentiment analysis to analyze interviews and reflections. And I will do the linear mixed method for analyze repeated assessment test.
Sounds good. It sounds interesting. Sounds important for society. So you have a societal.
Yes, because when I was teacher, I really wanted to help struggling students and marginalized students, because smart students, rich students, they can easily access any material resources. Their parents are rich. Their parents support anything. But for underprivileged students and struggling students, I really have some empathy to help them.
So where were you teaching in Korea, and if in Seoul, what part of Seoul? I'm just curious.
In Korea, as a public school teacher, we rotate every 4 years. So I worked both privileged area and underprivileged area. Very big differences.
Where, approximately where on a map, where would I find?
Do you know Bundang, Jeongja-dong? It's a pretty rich area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Hwaseong is a very big area, but I used to work in the poor area in Hwaseong, and in Bundang, it was very rich area.
Mm.
There are many celebrity parents, like actors, actress, sports stars, very, very rich.
Sunmi was shaking her head. Yes, go ahead, Sunmi.
Yeah, that's go to South Korea. So is that elementary or middle school or?
That was a great question. I want to target upper elementary grade, like a grade 5 or grade 6.
Yeah, that's because I'm really interested in, computer education. That's because my background is actually computer and education.
Mhm.
And also I really want to
Yeah.
teach, my son, but it's really
Oh,
hard. So every time
yeah.
how to design,
Yeah, my background is computer science education. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. So yeah, I really want to, hear more about how to design, That's because every
Yeah.
time I try to teach something, but
Yeah, curriculum is one of the key
Yeah.
elements for my
Yeah.
dissertation, developing a robust and culturally responsive CS curricular. Yeah. Maybe I have to embrace students' previous knowledge and cultural background, something like that.
And also, I think that maybe it would be better just starting, in the late elementary school and then connecting to middle school and connecting to high school. That's because it's really weird. That's because right now, actually, high school in America offer, computer science principle and AP computer science, but it's just not connected at all. So CS principle, it's really easy. Everyone get, A. But just the AP computer science, it's really difficult, So it's a big difference. And then actually they never provide any background about computer science, only just 2 courses for, high school. So that's so weird. That's because nothing. And they just provided the first one, it's okay. And the next one, it's really hard. That's because just the first one is just a concept. And the second one is actually focused on one language.
Wow.
Python, Java, something. So I don't know what happened.
It sounds very sad because curricula should be like a spiral connected.
Right, exactly. So that's the problem. So I hope you can make a progress and then, just affect the educational system in Korea and also in America. Now focusing on Korea.
That is a really good point. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
When she's famous, we'll all say we knew her when.
If I have large funding, a lot of funding, I can do some longitudinal study to connect elementary, middle school, and high school CS curricula. Yeah, if I have funding later.
Let's hope. I hope you all get funded projects from this, and that's what, we all are starting off somewhere and you just keep pushing, and sometimes it all falls into place. Other times you have to revise and resubmit the grant, and just keep pushing, keep trying. Persistence always matters.
I'm really interested in longitudinal study when it comes to methodology, because just a one-time, one-shot implementation, we cannot see the whole big pictures. I want to conduct a research for a longer period of time to make.
You have to find the junior researchers and then just make that person work with you, and then you graduate and they deliver you. Something like that.
Okay, I will.
Lune will be your outside consultant advisor. So you already have some, someone for the grant you can list because she's developed software and stuff. So we probably
maybe we can work together later.
There you go. She'll be a doctor soul. So, soon, within a month and a half, she'll be a doctor. So we hope. Right, Sune?
Yeah, thank you.
So she'll be in Bloomington, by the way. She's coming for commencement next week. So you can meet her if you want. So you guys.
Next Wednesday.
Oh, Sunmi, I love to meet you in person.
Yeah. I will, contact you.
Yeah, sure. Email me.
Okay.
So we had.
We can hang out. Yeah, Jiyoung also together.
Yeah, and Carrie as well.
You will stay at
listen to me.
Jiyoung's house, right?
Yeah.
So let's hang out.
We had 3 from Trinidad and Tobago tonight. Briefly, Paula came, and we had 3 from Korea tonight. We only have 1 from Indonesia and 1 from China, but Tawfik is the last speaker. And Tawfik, since you're last, our attention spans are low. So I will ask you to give us a brief overview of, maybe show us the game that you've built. If you've built one, maybe if you haven't selected one, just give us a 2-3 minute overview of your project. Don't do everything. I don't think we have that attention span to to stay for the 5 or 10 minutes, just a 2 or 3 minute. I apologize. It might be better that way. You'll get more questions that way. So, so Tawfiq, you want to jump in and tell us what you're doing?
So yeah, I prepared a presentation, but it's gonna take so much time, so I'm gonna very quickly explain the essence of that. So my proposed dissertation research came from my first author study. So in my first author study, I developed a web platform for online discussion that was kind of where I put game element or game mechanics into that online discussion platform. But my proposed dissertation research is it is expanded from that study. So in my dissertation proposed study, I will integrate game mechanics or game design element like points, badges, leaderboard, quizzes, challenges, game narrative into online cooperative learning. So that's the idea. So if you must be familiar with Wikipedia, Google review, where people collaborate together to share informations. And in my study, I'm gonna look for whether game design element can enhance learners to cooperate more into cooperative learning units. So that's the big questions in my study. And I have several hypotheses. I have several sub-research questions. So the independent variable is gamifications. The context is cooperative learning, and the dependent variable is cognitive behavior and social emotional outcomes. In my previous study, I examined cognitive and behavior outcome. And in my proposed dissertation study, I expanded it. I added another dependent variable, which is social emotional outcome, which is very interesting because it's really related to cooperative learning. Social emotional outcomes has been investigated for a long time in cooperative learning. They built this hypothesis. The successful of cooperative learning really depends on group cohesion, which is one of the indicator of social emotional outcomes. And in my study, one of my research questions is to see whether game design element or game mechanics, point, badges, leaderboard can enhance group cohesions in cooperative learning. So that's one new research question. Because the other two were very common, I'm looking for whether game design element can influence cognitive and behavior outcomes in cooperative learning. For cognitive, I'm going to use cognitive tests for measurement. For the behavior outcomes, I'm going to use log data from users' behavior in the platform. And for social emotional, there are 5 instruments that I'm going to use. Those are self-measure questionnaires, and they are pretty existing instruments from previous studies. So they have been validated and pretty much reliable for future study.
Okay, so I'll stop you there and ask a couple questions. We'll see if others have. And I want you to call up your slides now and show us the slides briefly. I'm not going to have you explain them. I'm just going to have you click while I'm asking the question. Can you call up and share your screen?
Of course.
So we can maybe visualize what you just said. That is the game an existing game? So is a package prepackaged?
This is the online discussion platform that I built it for my first author study.
Okay, so you've built something.
Yeah.
And is it used in Indonesia or in America?
It's in Indonesia. It's used in one of the teacher training university in Indonesia.
So the audience is the students in that university or the teachers in that university?
You're correct. It was pre-service teachers in that university.
Okay. So what's going to be your sample size?
That's the idea. So I'm thinking to have 4 different parallel groups,
right,
for my experiments. Approximately people have 30 to 35 students in each class. So if I can get 4 different groups, 35 times 4, that will be the number.
You've got a lot of measures on cognitive and affective. So you know 5 or 6 different measures you had talked about here. It's a lot of research questions.
That is true, yeah. Especially for social emotional, there are couples of measures.
So you might have to have a fairly large sample size, but not necessarily, but something to think about here. And I think I saw these questions at your dossier 2. I think some of these were already there at dossier 2, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. It's kind of the idea from those presentations.
It's evolved a bit.
That is true.
Okay, all right. You can stop.
All right.
We kind of have a sense of that. Does anyone have a comment for Tawfik or a question?
I was actually thinking about the sample size, which it seems to be huge. The analysis seems to be huge. So is that like practical, or do you need to cut down on maybe the questions or something so that you can, you know, handle the size of the study?
Let me ask it in a slightly different way. Do you have confidence that you'll get a larger sample? What is the sample the university has of pre-service teachers? And do you have access to all of them or only a small piece of them?
That's a good considerations. Well, there's opportunity because I work in some institutions and I know some instructors who will be teaching this course, which is, I think, well, annually we have, because I used to teach this course, and then we annually have about 20 to 25 classes in each semester. And if I have at least 4 instructors agree to collaborate with me, that would be positive. I would have great access to 4 classes, but it's still undecided yet. So during the summer, I have to contact, those colleagues.
That's the important thing, getting contacts, getting them to commit, doing what you promised you will do once they do commit to provide them what they need. But you want to lock that in at some point, then you know how large the sample will be, and then you can write that into the dissertation and get your advisors to approve it. So you have to start making those, inroads now. They might have to set it up. They might have the equipment that can handle it, all these things. So I want to thank you, Tawfik, for your patience and, for designing. I'm sure they're excellent slides for what we saw. We just, if we would have gone through those, I think we would have lost everybody who was left here. There would have been no audience. And so I want to thank everyone, a little celebration tonight. This has been a fantastic to have everyone with us tonight. So I want to say a cheers to everyone's good health, great dissertations, fantastic summers. To everyone, cheers.
Cheers.
Does anyone want to have a toast for anything before we go? Any final comments or on the class or on anything? I want to say to Karen, your advisor, you're meeting with her on Friday, Dr. Mimi Lee, our former IST alum. Say hi from me.
I definitely will.
For me, and wish her well this summer. Have a great summer. Tell her, and to all of you who are collecting data, it sounds like every one of you are doing interesting things that will be important for a lot of science and technology studies. A lot, so I was really impressed with where we've come, where you were at the beginning and where you're at right now. As you can see, Barbara is like well on her way. She was the first one. She's basically got her stuff. I mean, she's really really organized well, and to get access to all those schools of medicine that are doing what she wants to do, that's going to be really, really, really important. And everyone today was doing something that's going to make a difference. It's not just get done dissertations. These are make a difference dissertations, in many ways. So that's important. Any final comments? Sunmei, how about you make the final comment? You're the TA.
Thank you for everyone. I really miss everyone. That's because I can't believe that, 4 years passed really quickly. That's because I remember the first time when I met the Carrie, at the orientation, right? But almost to say goodbye. Yeah, of course we can keep in touch, and then actually thanks to Dr. Bong, I work as a TA for, several classes, and then I made the, new friends, thanks to you. That was really great opportunity for me. And then keep in touch, good luck with everyone. And then great work. Actually I was very impressed. That's because my background is STEM, but actually I chose the, not, STEM background, but everyone just chose the science, that's my work. So I really want to, my interest, totally different. So
Sunmei's been my TA 6 or 7 times without pay. So let's give her a round of applause here tonight. Sunmei, it's been great to have you with us. I will stop the recording here in a second. Week 15, R795, going to the cloud. I'll send you all a copy and the recording and the playlist. They're going to have a playlist all 15 weeks. So you'll all get access to that. Thanks again for coming tonight.